There we go. Welcome everyone to the first Arise virtual workshop. This will be the first of a kind of monthly installment, so folks can kind of keep up with the state of the project, what we're developing, and kind of work together as a community of educators to explore how we can integrate some of the topics that we're building this curriculum around into all of your classrooms. We have a few people here, so maybe if we have a few minutes, we can go quickly around the room and introduce
Nope,
ourselves.
not yet.
Maybe just say your name and what institution you're from and what courses you
Oh
teach,
well, I was thinking about fall,
what you
but
might like to
yeah,
get out of
good
the
point.
project. Um, So I guess I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Joel Ewerker. I'm a researcher here at the SETI Institute and Allen Telescope Array. And I'm the primary developer for the Arise project that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm designing the curriculum that kind of goes into the Arise project, help
Yeah.
develop tools to give access to data and instrumentation to support these
Maybe
labs.
all of it,
I'm kind of working
exactly.
with all of you, all of the instructors to implement this into your classrooms. Um, so maybe we can next jump to Vishal, and then we can kind of go around the room and introduce ourselves.
Thank you, Joe. Could we perhaps ask Jeremy, could you mute? I think looks like there's some background noise coming from your end. I'm not sure, Joel, if maybe you are a host, so you'll be able to kind of mute.
Yes,
Thank you,
I
thank you.
just did.
All right, cool. Thank you everyone for joining the meeting today. My name is Vishal Bachar. I am the PI of this particular grant through which we are trying to develop SETI-focused curriculum for colleges. That includes community college, four-year college as well. And we also have some interest from high school teachers as well. So we are very excited to, work with you all. So today our goal is to outline some of the basic stuff we have on our website, as well as some of the things that we plan to do over the next semester. We also will be hosting a workshop. I think you probably have received an email if you are already selected for it, but if you're not, you are welcome to also join these virtual meetings, which we plan to do on a sort of a monthly basis. Yeah, I think, Joel, we probably don't have time to go over all the participants. It's like 15 people, so it might take a lot of time. Maybe you can just directly jump on the sort of the discussion to start away, unless somebody want to kind of highlight anything specifically that they are looking forward in this meeting, we can start the discussion.
Yeah, of course. We'll also open this up towards in about 30 or 40 minutes to kind of an open discussion from all of you. So we can maybe also use that chance to introduce everyone. Yeah, so we can go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name's Joel Ewerker, so I work on the Arise project. I'll briefly turn it over to Vishal just to kind of introduce the motivation for the project and some of our guiding philosophies about how we're developing the curriculum.
Oh, yeah, cool. I mean, I don't really have a lot of, I'm not going to be talking too much today. It's all going to be very sort of discussion based on what Joel has prepared. I have a couple of things that I'd like to highlight just to build a case of why we feel what we are trying to do is important. So we know that in STEM education, it is difficult sometimes to get students' engagement for a long extended period, right? We kind of struggle with that. I think most of you are educators, so you have more experience than I do of how to kind of keep the students engaged in your curriculum. So what we have looked at is that we have looked at some of the surveys people have done over the years about different topics that excite the students the most. And I think there is no question about it. The winner is the possibility of life outside the Earth. So if you want to teach some complicated topic, some complicated idea, if the starting point is this question of how do we find evidence of life outside Earth, then you could perhaps create some kind of more engagement with students, and then create and then keep it extended for slightly better amount of time than keep them starting with a topic that might be completely new to them. So that with that goal in mind, we thought that it would be, because all of us are SETI researcher, we are all doing SETI as a kind of a career. So we feel that bringing the work that we do as a professional back to colleges, we can bridge this gap and also bring the latest development that is happening in our field to students, so you can also create more engagements with them. So in fact, this the plot that you are seeing here, this was one of the studies done across, I think, more or less 100 different countries, and they asked this question, like, what is to the students, like, what is the question that excites you the most? And you could see that what is shown here on the y-axis is the different countries. On the x-axis is the amount of, their engagement. And there are different questions they asked. And this slide is particularly for this one question of, what was the students' response when you ask them that how excited are you about the possibility of life outside Earth? And you could see that almost 70 to 80%, or close to 90 to 100% in some cases, you get a huge amount of excitement from students. So we feel that this is something that excites the student the most. So you want to explain some complicated ideas about your own curriculum, your own teaching. You can start with SETI, you can start with Search for Life, and then you can bridge the gap of some of the ideas that you want to kind of teach to them, and you combine that with this question of life in the universe. And next slide, please, Joel. The another thing that is important for us is also we can also incorporate some amount of hands-on approaches. So not just not just kind of talking about Search for Life from theoretical perspective, but actually experimenting in your lab itself. By getting students involved, doing hands-on approaches also creates a lot more engagement. So what we currently see on the plot here, this is kind of like an engagement score, and the x-axis is the number of times this engagement or like hands-on activities have been incorporated. So in this particular study, different groups were given different tasks, and like every time they were assessed after a certain amount of hands-on experiments were conducted. So as you could see, more number of hands-on activities are performed, a score increases. So students' engagement with the topic, students' understanding of the topic is increasing, right? It's just sort of easy for us to understand. Like if students are doing these things on their own, hands-on approach, they get to learn some more complicated ideas in a much better, much fundamental way, rather than them just showing us a deck of slides on a screen. So that's another kind of the philosophy through which we want to design everything that we do. So we have two fundamental ideas that kind of drives us. One is that SETI, or Search for Life in the Universe, is a pretty engaging topic. So if you want to explain some complicated ideas, you can create students' engagement through that. And number two, if you can also incorporate hands-on approach, if you can also incorporate hands-on labs in your curriculum, that can also create more engagement for students and kind of enhance their learning process slightly more. So with that goal in mind, we had proposed this project, and we got a pretty good grant to design this curriculum, which Joel will be talking about more over the next couple of minutes. But yeah, maybe toward the end, we can take some more questions and actually get your response of what your kind of experience has been in teaching, about either whether if you ever teach like Life in Universe course, for example, or if you've done labs, what your experience has been in terms of increasing students' engagement in your course. We would love to know sort of your thoughts on it. But yes, Joel, over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Vishal. So I just wanted to give kind of a brief overview of kind of what we'll be talking about today. We have a limited amount of time, so we can't go through everything. But what I wanted to do is kind of briefly introduce what the project is, what are our goals, and our general approach to this curriculum project. We can then talk a little bit about the materials we've already developed and the structure of those, the modules and labs that we've already developed. And then from there, I think we can maybe do a quick little diversion to looking at some of the actual materials we've developed. So we can look at one of the labs we developed about pulsars, and we can kind of see how students can engage with those topics. And then we can also look at one of the modules that we've developed around using the 21 centimeter hydrogen line in radio astronomy to kind of map the Milky Way. And if we have time, maybe we can do a quick live observation with the Allen Telescope array right now. And then we can kind of circle back a little bit and talk about how you as instructors can get involved in this, and then kind of open it up to a larger open discussion. So I'll start with what is this project that we're working on called the RISE. So we have received a very generous series of grants from an organization called Amateur Radio Digital Communications that have funded this curriculum project to bring hands-on SETI and radio astronomy related labs and other curriculum materials into college classrooms, and to do so in a very hands-on way. So this is a curriculum that's designed to be very modular, so that you don't need to create an entire course around it, but it's meant to easily drag and drop into one of your existing courses. And so if you want to add maybe just one of our labs into one of your courses, or incorporate some of your lectures around it, our materials are kind of designed around making that integration process very easy. So generally what we're trying to do with this project, as Vishal mentioned earlier, is introduce a quite wide range of topics, all with that very engaging backdrop of SETI that we have seen from these studies that can really engage students. So using SETI as a backdrop to explore some other more exciting and topics across a wide range of disciplines. One of the other things that we wanted to address with this project is, nearly half of all students who take an introductory astronomy course in the US do so at institutions like community colleges or kind of these small liberal arts colleges. So there's a huge demographic of students who are seeing astronomy for the first time coming through these institutions. But sometimes in these kind of institutions, it can be difficult to have up-to-date resources, up-to-date teaching materials, and access to equipment and other resources you might need for running labs. And so what we wanted to do is essentially build a curriculum and access to tools that is completely free, completely open for any instructors to use as you see best fit in your courses. Of course, built into that approach is trying to make this curriculum as hands-on as possible. So whenever possible, giving you as instructors and your students access to real instrumentation and real data to give you kind of hands-on experience with the real process of doing science. And altogether, that kind of serves the goal of helping to make some of these advanced topics in radio astronomy or signal processing more accessible to both you as instructors and to your students, and to make those engaging to that very broad audience. So this is the kind of general outline of the curriculum we've developed so far. When we first started developing this curriculum, we were developing modules. So these modules are essentially an entire teaching unit that allowed you to incorporate a series of topics into an entire week of one of your courses that you're already teaching. So each of these modules comes with essentially everything that you need to teach an entire week on these topics. There are detailed lecture notes, that kind of guide through the major points that should be touched on in lectures, discussion questions, extra teaching resources for your lectures. We'll also provide slide decks that kind of follow along with the lecture notes, so that that we can make that process of implementing it into your courses as easy as possible without you having to do all of that work on your own. Then on the student side, we also provide pre-lab readings that just kind of introduce the foundational concepts that will be dealt with in the lab to make sure that students are familiar with those topics before jumping into those hands-on labs. We also kind of the core of each of these modules is the labs themselves. So each of the modules has a lab that's built around these hands-on approaches towards dealing with the relevant topics. And then, of course, we also want to import, the instructors, you all that are working with this. We want to help support you as much as we can. So we don't require that you be a subject matter expert in radio astronomy or data science or signal processing or any of that. We kind of do our best to provide the materials to support you in your teaching. So we have currently 8 modules. So that's essentially a full 8-week course that you can easily drag and drop into 1 week of your existing course. And since we have gotten a new grant, we've changed our focus a little bit to developing, putting more of an emphasis on these labs. And so we're now in the process of developing new kind of standalone lab activities that can be more easily integrated with your own materials. And so here we'll include those hands-on lab manuals, as well as completed lab manuals for you as the instructor, and again pre-lab readings for your students to make sure that they're familiar with the concepts before delving into the lab. So these are the modules we've developed so far. We kind of wanted to touch on a number of different topics throughout these modules. So we start at fairly simple topics that you might want to introduce in the first few weeks of your course, something like introduction to electromagnetic waves. How can we explore that in a hands-on way? Going through a couple of more SETI specific topics that might be relevant for, say, a Life in the Universe course. We have 2 of these radio astronomy fundamental modules that kind of introduce how we do radio astronomy, both at the single dish radio telescope level and with the modern interferometric arrays. We also wanted to touch on data science a little bit, because that's quite an important piece of doing radio astronomy and doing SETI research is how do we process all of that data. So we kind of wanted to broaden the scope of applicability, because SETI is, of course, a very interdisciplinary field. And then we work around some other kind of hands-on approaches to doing experiments with real radio data and like live observations. So these are now the labs that we are in the process of designing. We're kind of constantly adding new labs into the curriculum. So just in the next few days, we'll be releasing more about detecting technosignatures and using the ATA to find Mars orbiters, and decoding images from weather satellites, which we can look back a little bit. So this is kind of an ever-growing selection of labs that we're adding every month or so, just to keep building on the scope and applicability of the project. So what I want to do now is just kind of introduce a few of the core tools that we use in the curriculum in order to give students that hands-on experience in radio astronomy and signal processing and other things. And one of the most foundational tools that we make use of is a software called GNU Radio, which some of you may have heard of already. This is a very easy to approach, easy to use platform for doing signal processing. So, we don't require students to have any coding experience. GNU Radio is quite easy to use with these kind of drag and drop blocks that can do all of your signal processing for you, and allows you to do a lot of nice visualizations. So it's a very powerful signal processing system, but it's also very easy to use for students that are probably not experts in the field of signal processing or other related things. And one of the other things that we can talk about in a moment is that we can very easily integrate this GNU Radio software with real instrumentation, like software-defined radios, and also access to the Allen Telescope Array that we can use in some of these labs. So one of the other things we make use of are these software-defined radios called RTL SDRs. These are, very low-cost software-defined radios that essentially can turn every student's laptop into a real-time radio receiver. So kind of allowing students to explore how radio signals are used in their everyday lives. They can just plug one of these into their computers, and they can start receiving radio signals in real time. And that allows students to do quite a lot of very cool activities in a very hands-on way. So for example, they can click their car key and see the signal that it's giving out. They can easily pick up on AM and FM radio stations like I'm showing here. And what I'm also showing here is one of the new labs that will be coming out soon. They can actually use these to receive the transmissions from weather satellites in orbit and actually decode real-time images of Earth from space. So just kind of a few examples of how we can use this hands-on technology, and giving students direct access to that technology to see how radio waves are used in their everyday lives. And last but certainly not least, I think this is probably one of the most exciting components for students, is that as part of the ARISE project, we actually give you as the instructor and your students direct access to the Allen Telescope Array to make live observations as part of these labs. Now, I don't know if any of you are radio astronomers or have ever run a radio observatory, but typically these systems are kind of designed by radio astronomers and for radio astronomers. They typically require quite a bit of training and experience in order to be able to run them. And so in order to kind of open the access to the observatory up to people who may not have a background in running a radio observatory, what I've done is develop these very simple, easy to use graphical user interfaces that allow you to log on and control the telescope in a manner that's specific to the lab you're working on in a very hands-on way. So you can operate the telescope with 2 or 3 buttons, and that's it. And you can have data streaming live into your computer. So what I wanted to do now is maybe we can take a look at the materials that we've developed so far, kind of get a sense for how they're structured and how they can best be used by you in your classrooms. So some of you may have seen already, we have all of our modules and labs, everything in the curriculum is hosted completely for free and open access here on our website. You can very easily come here and access all of these materials. So what I wanted to do is focus on a quick example of one of the labs. This one happens to be with pulsars, so we can get a sense of the structure of the materials and how these all work. So again, in the labs, we provide these pre-lab readings for students to familiarize themselves with the concepts, so we can come in here and look at what's included. So we'll kind of introduce what is a pulsar, how do they form, what can we see through them, why do we study them? So just a very brief introduction to the topics that we're going to be dealing with later in the lab, as well as preparing students for actually dealing with the data and working with these objects. And we then have these the lab manuals, which are designed around this very hands-on approach. So in this instance, we again kind of introduce what's a pulsar, give some overall context for the lab, and then students can actually come in here and design a very simple flow graph in GNU Radio to read in real radio data. In this case, it's from the Green Bank telescope. So they can read in real data, build their own signal processing pipeline, and actually visualize and listen to the sounds of these pulsars. So maybe I will pull up one of these flow graphs and we can take a quick look at what these students will actually develop. So this is what a GNU Radio flow graph looks like. We just read in a data file, do a little bit of simple processing on it, and then we can visualize it, something like this. And so students can, after only a few minutes of work, getting that hands-on experience with signal processing, they can come in here and visualize and actually listen to the signal from a pulsar.
Joe, are you sharing the GNU Radio flow graph or just showing the PDF? Because we are only seeing the PDF.
Oh, there might be an issue with the screen sharing. Let me try this again. Let me pull up GNU Radio again. Let me make sure. Can you guys hear the audio that was being played before? Was that up?
No.
No.
Let me fix that real quick.
You may want to reshare with the audio sharing option enable.
We'll stop sharing and reshare here again. Here we go. You should be able to hear that now. So this is after only a few minutes of work from these students, they can build the signal processing system and visualize the real radio data. I think it's quite exciting for students to actually come in here and listen to a real radio signal, and then we can kind of go from there and explore how we can use that real data to gain deeper insight into the physical structure of these objects. So this, for example, they'll come in here and build their signal processing flow graph. They can simply visualize the time series for this pulsar. They can measure its period and then use that to discover more things about the pulsar, kind of following the lines of the initial discovery. How did we take data from radio telescopes and turn that into information that we can apply to the universe? So again, this hands-on approach of kind of guiding through students through the process of real science with working with real data. So they can come in here and find some of the extreme properties of neutron stars and pulsars based off of the data that they're directly measuring. So they can do things like find its rotation period, constrain its radius, figure out its density, and even estimate its age, all from the data that they're measuring directly. And then, of course, as we're providing these to both students and instructors, we'll also provide instructor versions of this that will come with everything fully completed. So all of the correct equations and math and everything in here is available for you as instructors. And then, of course, we provide the teaching resources. So any of the software that you might need, installation instructions for that, easy access to the data that you might need for the lab, and also pre-configured GNU Radio flow graphs or Python notebooks or things like that that are applicable towards that lab. So that's just the very brief structure of one of the labs. Now is maybe take a quick look at one of the modules. So in this case, we'll look at this 21 centimeter hydrogen in the Milky Way module. Now, much of the structure of these kind of follows what we have seen before in the labs, where we have pre-lab readings that kind of introduce the core topics that are dealt with in the lab. We, of course, have these hands-on lab manuals that have students doing kind of interactive exercises with the real data. We'll provide instructor notes for you to guide you through some of the technical aspects of the lab. But in the modules, this is kind of designed for integrating into your lectures as well. And so we'll also provide full sets of lecture notes with all the most important topics to cover in your lectures. Included in here are discussion questions that you can kind of use to lead your class into deeper conversations about what you've been learning. And there's also resources for helping you teach each of these topics. So for example, you can come in here and have nice visualizations that help you teach the topics at hand. So this one is you can see what the sky looks like in optical versus what the sky looks like in radio. So this is kind of continued across 3 lectures per module, so kind of meant to take up an entire week of course material. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but our goal is to make this work for you as instructors as best it can. And so we will actually give you access to these original documents if you want to edit them or make them better meet the needs of your classroom. And then again, to accompany lecture notes, we also provide a full set of slides for you that follow along with these lecture notes to make that integration as easy as possible into your courses. So this module in particular has students working with real data from the Allen Telescope Array, measuring this emission of 21 centimeter hydrogen from along the plane of the Milky Way. And what we can do within this lab is actually have students show with the data that we live in a rotating spiral galaxy. So included in here are pre-recorded plots that can be distributed to students, so they can come in here and look at any particular part of the galaxy and see exactly what, for example, the hydrogen line looks like, and they can use that in a hands-on way in the lab. But one of the other things that we can do here is, as I mentioned before, actually give students direct access to the Allen Telescope Array itself. So we have a few minutes here. I'll see if I can be brief. We might actually be able to do a very quick live demo observation using the Allen Telescope Array. Let me share my screen over here. There we go. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so this is just an example of how we can give you as instructors and your students access to the Allen Telescope Array using these interfaces that are kind of custom designed for your labs. So these user interfaces will take care of all of the necessary setup and calibration automatically for you. So you can come in here and just click this activate antenna button, and all of the calibration, all of the setup that's required will happen automatically in the background here. So it makes operating a radio observatory like this fairly simple. So you can come into here, click one button, wait about a minute, and then everything is completely ready to go. We have a live camera on site that you can use to monitor the telescope you can see it moving. And we can also live stream data via GNU Radio so that you can see the real-time data output. Again, these are kind of designed specifically for each lab. So they're just meant to be very easy to use and reliable for running the labs in kind of a student-friendly approach. So you can hit one more button and it'll show you which parts of the galaxy are currently observable at this particular time of day. And so students can actually come up here in groups and operate the telescope themselves to collect real data. So we can come in here, for example, and say, I want to look at, let's say, 80 degrees. Let's just hit track source, and we will start to see the antenna moving, and we can stream data directly into your computer in real time from the telescope. So here we go, our source is moving, and we should be able to see our signal popping up here in a second once we get on Sky. So again, this is just hopefully a very easy to use approach towards giving students direct access to world-class technology that they can use to explore how we use radio astronomy to understand the universe. So already here you can see some interesting signals popping up. Again, this should be easy enough that your students can come on here and can control this directly. I guess while we have a minute, the telescope is rather slow in its movement. If there's any questions about this specific part of the lab, maybe we can open that up now.
Maybe we should mention that the Allen Telescope Array, I'm not sure all of you are familiar with where it is. It's in the Northern California, and it's an array of 42 antennas. Each of them are 6 meters in diameter, and they are actively engaged in kind of a radio astronomy science operation. We can reserve one of the antennas based on our instructor's requirement. For example, like what Joel did is that because he wanted to run these workshop today, we reserve one of the antennas saying that, okay, we want to use it. And it's very flexible. Because we as a SETI Institute own the antenna and operate it, so we have full control over it. So we can keep one antenna aside, and it can be used for education purposes.
Can you use 2 antennas in interferometry?
We have not developed anything specifically in terms of using 2 antennas for interferometry. There is a course that we had designed, but it is more of a simulation. But there is another antenna that is also available to us, but we primarily use only one of the antenna for most of the labs that we have designed. But yes, the antennas are being used actively as an interferometry mode. So for science cases, most of the science that we do with the ATA, they are being used in interferometry mode.
Yeah, that's entirely correct. I'm kind of actively thinking about ways that we can use the current system to actually combine the data from multiple telescopes to kind of see how these telescopes can act as an interferometer. I think there's some interesting use cases for some other labs that we can develop here. So I wanted to make this pretty quick, to just kind of show the systems that kind of make access to the observatory rather easy for making observations for students. So again, one button takes care of all of the calibration. It'll automatically show you what's available in the sky. One button and you're moving the telescope. And then we can easily shut down the antenna again. And again, we can stream data directly out of the antenna and into your students' computers in real time. And then they can use this real-time data to then make measurements and infer properties about, in this case, the galaxy that we live in. which is quite nice. So let me return very briefly to our slides here. So what I want to talk about now is, we've kind of covered, what are the overall goals of the project. We kind of looked very briefly at the structure of the materials and, what the labs look like, what the modules look like. What I want to talk a little bit more now is about how we can best support you as instructors in order to implement these topics into your courses. So as I mentioned before, all of the materials are designed to be flexible and fully adaptable to meet the needs of your particular classroom. That's one of the challenges of designing a curriculum that's going to be applied across a number of different courses and classrooms with different teaching techniques and different needs and different goals. So our materials are designed to be as flexible as possible. We will work with you to adapt what we've currently made to best meet the needs of your particular classroom. We'll also put an emphasis on kind of developing those supporting documents to make sure that you as the instructor can be comfortable running these labs on your own without necessarily being a subject matter expert in any of the particular topics that were covered. And I'll touch a little bit more on those last 2 points in just a moment. You all know obviously about these workshops because you're at one. So we are kind of launching a series of workshops throughout 2025. The one you're at now will be continued every month. So it'll just be a chance for us to connect with you as instructors about what we're developing, how you can implement this into your courses, and just kind of keep this an ongoing discussion. In addition to these monthly virtual workshops, we're also going to be hosting in-person workshops for instructors on site at the Allen Telescope Array. So we have one coming up at the end of this month, which we've already sent out selections for, and we'll also be planning on hosting a second one later this year. We haven't quite decided on the exact dates for that, but we'll share those when those are available. So again, we'll provide full funding for instructors to come out to the site, stay nearby, get real hands-on training with the materials, the technology that we make use of, and hopefully kind of build this collaborative group where we can all kind of discuss what are the best strategies for adopting some of these topics into our classroom. One of the things I mentioned before is that this is a constantly evolving curriculum, and we need your feedback in order to continue to improve this. And so every time this is kind of in the classroom, we're taking the student and instructor experiences of working with that particular module or lab and going back and seeing how we can improve the curriculum based on those experiences. So very briefly, so this is actually from one of the participants on the call today, Scott Cardell, who has down in Palomar College teaching one of these labs last month. We have opportunities for us to be fully funded to come travel and visit your campus, visit your college, and actually be able to co-teach these Arise labs with you at absolutely no cost to you. So of course we can talk about that more later, but of course we have the ability to come out and support you in a very hands-on way. As I mentioned before, we'll also work with you to help take the materials we've already developed and adapt them to your own needs to best meet the needs of your course. and then of course take your experience and your students' experience to continue to refine the materials that we've already developed and develop better pathways into developing curriculum in the future. And so hopefully by bringing some of these topics directly into your classroom, we can give students this real world hands-on approach to science that lets them work with world-class technology, real data in a very hands-on way that gives them the opportunity to engage in science. So most of you have already seen, we have everything available completely for free and open access on our website that you can come access at any time. Of course, feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in using any of these materials or working with us to have us come out to your college. I think with that, we have about 15 minutes left. Hopefully we have a little bit of chance to kind of open this up. I want to hear from all of you about how you see this curriculum potentially fitting into some of your courses. What of what we've already developed seems like it would fit well into the courses you're teaching. Are there any kind of particular labs or topics that you'd like to see us explore as part of this curriculum? Maybe we can also talk a little bit about, what are the challenges to actually adopting a new kind of hands-on curriculum in your classroom? And then, a general discussion about how we can best make materials that suit the needs of you as the instructor in your classrooms. So with that, we have a few minutes left. I will kind of open it up to everyone here and hear your thoughts and experiences.
Hey, if I can just interject, Joel, and excuse me, I have a cold. But having you come in and run the 21 centimeter lab with my students month or so ago was great. Everybody really had an amazing experience from that. And I look forward to doing some more.
Yeah, we look forward to working with you more, Scott. Thank you.
There is a question in the chat. Maybe I can take that up regarding the EM Spectrum Lab. Like what kind of material is required. So it's a sort of a very simple thing that you could do. If you want to explain what is radio waves and like how this, I mean, if you're, for example, if I can see what you're teaching is an invisible light spectrum. So radio is a kind of part of it. And the setup is bare minimum. I think all you need is these simple SDR kits, which we do have funding to purchase for you. So, for example, if we come out there to co-teach this lab with you, we could bring in like 5 or 6 these SDR dongles, which we can distribute to your students, and maybe student can work in a group of 3 or 4, depending upon the size of your class. And we can do some very simple experiment. Like, for example, you can take a car key remote, and if you once you press it, they create a burst of radio waves, which you can visually see by doing a very simple graphical interface. So as long as you are able to have a laptop which can run the GNU Radio software and the kit that we can bring to you, you should be able to do the lab that are designed for the EM spectrum. I don't know if that answers your question, Alice.
Yeah, no, that is fantastic. And I was actually asking because I have an opportunity to play over the summer and just play with it myself. And that's why I was wondering about picking up one of the dongles for myself just to play around with and get some ideas. But yeah, you coming out would be fantastic. So is that just yeah, it's just pointing in the direction of what that dongle looks like, and it also gives me a chance to try it on our classroom distributed machines. So that's always a problem.
Yeah, we can take it offline and we can point you to what typically we use. But there are lots of SDR available. If you just go to Amazon, you will also find they're quite inexpensive, $25, starting from $25.
Great.
They can go as high as like 10,000. The one that Joel used, for example, for the hydrogen line thing, that's a bit expensive one. But you don't need that for simple things.
Right. Thanks.
See another question in the chat from Jeremy asking if there's a straightforward way to get GNU Radio software working on a Chromebook. That is an excellent question and one that we've been kind of exploring over the last few months. So we're actually working directly with the GNU Radio development team. And one of the emphases we're putting in our collaboration with them is how to make GNU Radio more accessible to a wider audience. And one of those topics we've been exploring is, a lot of students or lab computers are Chromebooks. And so is there a way we can make that integration work easier? I don't have a definitive answer for you yet. I think one of the things we'd like to explore is working with the GNU Radio project to actually bring online a web-based version of GNU Radio that will help make these applications more accessible to a wider audience. As of now, I know GNU Radio works well on Windows and Macs and Linux. I'm not sure if we can do a direct implementation in Chromebooks now, but that's definitely something we're interested in exploring going into the future.
Yeah, I kind of suggested that there are Linux virtual environment that one can run on Chromebook. I haven't tried myself, but these are some of the suggestions that we have gotten from people who are using Chromebook, but something worth trying. But Chromebook is certainly an exception. We don't have a huge support for it in terms of the GNU Radio community so far.
Yeah, that's right. There's another question here in the chat from Julian. Which modules or labs would you recommend to work with students aged 14 to 17 with no scientific background in public schools? That's a very good question, and that's something that we're thinking about as well. Going into the future is how can we expand the scope of the project beyond just community colleges and four-year colleges. Is there an easy way to extend this to, for example, high school students? I think there's a number of the labs that we've already developed that could certainly be tailored to meet the needs of that specific demographic. Certainly some of the introductory topics about the introduction to electromagnetic waves, we've tried to approach that in a very kind of easy to use, approachable manner. If that's something you'd like to explore more, maybe we can talk offline and see how we can both adapt the materials we've already developed to reach that audience, as well as kind of incorporate strategies going into the future for the new materials we develop. Yeah. We have any other kind of questions or perspectives from anyone else here? We have just a few minutes left, but we can take a few more questions.
And thank you for those of you who have expressed interest in participating with our in-person workshop. And we apologize if you have not been able to kind of accommodate everyone this time around. We will try to rotate people every time. With the next workshop, we'll probably have, please keep this in mind and apply again next time. So because we will try to circulate more number so that everybody gets an opportunity to come out at the site. So if you didn't get time, get selected this time, we will definitely try to accommodate you next time around as well. So please do apply again next year. Or next time around, which will probably be end of this year, I guess.
I attended a workshop in West Virginia, and we made radio telescopes out of paint cans and house insulation. and we were able to see the arms of the Milky Way, and all the information that we use to make our telescopes is in the chat. I put it, it's from, it's not as sophisticated as what you have, but it works. And you can build
Right.
your own telescope.
Yeah, this is a great resource. We've been trying also to work with Radio Joy as well. So one of the labs that we want to design is, for example, directly detect, I mean, these geostationary satellite images of Earth are very exciting for students to see when they get the radio data, and then they can just demodulate and see the live picture of the Earth. So we are also kind of designing some of the labs around that, and which require some amount of building, but obviously we are not going so much into the detail as much as building a whole radio telescope, which I guess I can see this great resource. I think thanks for sharing. It's pretty detailed, but our curriculums are probably designed to do this in a very short time, like within a week or a couple of labs. I think that's what we aim to do.
There's one more question from Pablo. Can you share any link specific on using SDR for radio astronomy?
Which
so-
one? You can share the one that we are currently using, right? I think it's on Amazon.
Yeah, so for software-defined radios, we I guess I would most highly suggest the RTL SDRs. These come in kits for about $40, and it gives you the actual software-defined radio plus a couple of antennas and basically everything you need to get started for $40 or so. So as we mentioned before, I have 7 or 8 of these that I can bring with me to your classroom if I come out to co-teach with you, and we can distribute those to students. But also if you want to design more long-term activities in one of your courses, these are fairly easy to purchase. On the other side of that, there's a whole suite of completely free softwares that can read in the data from your SDR dongle and do all sorts of things with it. Things like SDR++ lets you very easily visualize the spectrum, and again, that's all either low cost or free to access. All right, we're just about at the top of the hour. We can wrap this up. If there's any last minute questions, we can take those now. If not, thank you all very much for coming today. Of course, feel free to reach out to myself or Vishal with any questions, or if you'd like to get involved in the project more. We'll be happy to work with you, and we hope to hear from you all.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a good day.
you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much for everything. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Most welcome.